You don't have any Stephen King?
You've got the shinin'.
You mean shiny.
Shh! You wanna get sued?
It's just your fate. You're that geeky Stephen King kid. There's one of you in every school.
Okay, that's him, that's Cujo, that's Cujo.
I was thinking along the lines of no TV and no beer make Homer something.
Oh, crazy.
Don't mind if I do!
Hello and welcome to Tower Junkies, presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. Tower Junkies is a podcast celebrating the work of Stephen King, hosted by two lifelong constant readers. We do non-spoiler and spoiler reviews of King's published work and take a critical look at his film and television adaptations as well. We also discuss the latest King news and check in with each other on our ongoing King obsessions. It's the podcast where all things serve the King. You can find more of our work at TowerJunkiesPod.com and more of our podcasts at ObsessiveViewer.com/podcasts. And you can also like us on Facebook at Facebook.com/TowerJunkiesPod and follow us on Twitter and every other level of social media at TowerJunkiesPod. And if you want to support what we do here, you can become a patron at Patreon.com/ObsessiveViewer for a ridiculous amount of bonus content spread across all of ObsessiveViewer.com's various podcasts. I'm currently working on a Green Mile book review that I'm going to have up soon, hopefully, because I have one more part to finish, and I will get that done. And then on the $5 level, we have commentary tracks. We're going to be doing, in honor of Scream, the new Scream movie coming out this week, we are doing commentary tracks for all 4 Scream movies with me and my friend Mike from Obsessive Viewer. So that is all in the pipeline for Patreon. Again, that's at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. I am one of your hosts, Matt Hurt, and Tiny's not here today, but in his stead, we have a special guest, returning champion, Kim C. from the Year of Underrated Stephen King podcast. Kim, welcome back to Tower Junkies.
Oh, hello. Hello, Matt.
Hello.
I'm so happy to be back on Tower Junkies.
Yes, I am thrilled to have you back, and we have a very special show today because we're doing something that we at Tower Junkies rarely do. We are talking about the Dark Tower series. So this is
meta.
Yeah.
So meta.
Oh yeah, this is gonna be fun. So you've been just kicking ass with your show. Like, I am just a huge fan of the Year of Underrated Stephen King, as I've heaped praise upon it on episodes of the podcast where you are included in the episode, and also in ones where you're not. I'm just a big fan of your show, and I'm delighted to have you back here. How have you been since the last time our listeners heard from you in episode 69?
Bless you, precious creature. Thank you so much for all your kindness. I have been well. I kept busy. I did a full this is what happens when it's the first week back after the holiday.
Yeah.
I did 6-part coverage of the Green Mile.
Yes.
And I'm so happy that you have done the same, because what a rewarding journey, and I can't wait to talk with you about it.
Oh yeah.
It's been a wonderful rest of it was a wonderful rest of the year, and I ended 2021 with finishing The Wastelands.
Yes.
And that blew my doors open, let me tell you. Oh
Nice.
my gosh. Whoa.
Yeah, you did two-part episode on The Wastelands, and we'll go book by book for this episode, because I'm just going to kind of pick your brain and geek out about the Dark Tower in all of its glory, at least in those first 3 books, since I'm not going to be spoiling anything going forward, I promise. But you did something very something I really appreciate as a listener, is that you split The Wastelands into 2 books, which I feel like you I correct me if I'm wrong, but I kind of feel like you did that kind of on a whim, or something that was just kind of just not expected. And I have for years said that an adaptation of The Dark Tower would need The Wastelands to be split into 2 seasons of television. And so, like, I was just delighted when you split it into 2 episodes of your podcast.
Oh my gosh. Wow. That's super cool. Yeah, I was making my way through the story for the very first time, and by the time I finished the first book, there are two books entitled Jake and Lud, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh my god, like there has so much has happened." Oh my gosh, like how can I even conceive to talk about everything in my brain in these first 300
Yeah.
pages in one episode? And I was like, no, that would be a 5-hour podcast episode. No one would listen to it. No way. I got to split this. So it was just a kind of decision to like stop the car and let I needed to let myself digest
Yeah.
and decompress and say, what's going on, everyone? Like, this train is going faster down the tracks and I'm concerned. So
Oh yeah.
So I think it went well. The second episode is fun because that was post Christmas, and I think I was slightly hungover when I recorded it, just slightly. Albeit I'm not the spring chicken I once was, so I'm still a lady. However, all that wine and candy takes a minute to leave the system. So, in retrospect, I was like, maybe I should have waited a day, but I was like, nope, it's all right. We'll just move forward.
Well, you were a consummate professional in your coverage because it was a delightful episode, and like there were moments where I was just like, oh, okay, you're very much on a very interesting track in your thinking, and like I can't wait for you to I think I said this last time. I can't wait for you to get to the next book, because I just want everyone to read this series, and there are things in Wizard and Glass that I am very interested to hear your reaction to. So very excited for that.
Oh my gosh, me too. And like word on the street, Tower fans have kind of given me little breadcrumbs that there's some romance in this. And I'm getting hella excited for that.
Yep. It is.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
It's delightful. It's wonderful. Like, yeah, I can't say anything, but it's
okay.
It's really great.
Oh my gosh, so happy to hear that. Thrilled beyond belief. Because I am a sucker for it. I just am. Well, I'll preface. I'm a sucker for well-written romance, right? It's gotta work. It's gotta work. I gotta have the buy-in, you can't just make me like it.
Right.
I think because I am now at the end of book 3, like I am in this quartet. Dude.
Yeah.
Like I love everyone so much. I want to be their best friend. I want to be walking right behind Oy and Jake. Yep. I want to be there with them. Like I'm in it. And so now I love everyone. I treasure them all so much. And so now there's like more depth and romance and deep character things. And I'm very excited. I don't know who. I don't know who it's going to be with or for. I'm hoping it's Roland. I really am. Because he is such a man of mystery.
Yeah. I stoic.
I need this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I won't say anything, but yeah, okay. I just can't wait. But that's one of the things that I love about the Dark Tower series itself. And one of the things that I really appreciate about it, that I think a lot of people that are newcomers to it, maybe it creates a rough barrier for entry, is that, I mean, like, it's 3 books in, and at the end of the 3rd book, or about the midway point of the 3rd book, that's when, like, you have, like, your cast of characters together, like, finally. And it's like, this is the main group that is going to carry throughout the rest of the series. And it's just something that is just amazing to me that it took 3 books in a 7-book series, 8 if you count Went Through the Keyhole, to get to that. And I just love that, level of slowly building up the characters and slowly building up the dynamics, and it really kind of just creates this energy to it that it is a very long, treacherous journey that they're taking to get to the tower. And it's just, I don't know, I love that about this first batch of books of the Dark Tower.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. Really well said. I feel very similar because there was something kind of magical, and I kind of highlighted it in my first part of the Wastelands where I was like, the sandwich is here. Like, I love the fact like we've got the gunslinger on the left and we've got drawing of the three on the right, and then this wonderful fusion happens finally where everybody is together. And it's taken so much time and bloodshed and chaos and going through time and space and whatever it is that midworld, end world, all the worlds. I'm very confused. What this place is, this extended universe is, and then you have all the previous stories in mind when this fusion happens, and all of a sudden I was just so touched. I was like, this is so powerful. This is an adventure story. This is a fellowship, and that was so meaningful.
Absolutely, and I'm so glad to hear you say that, because there are a lot of people who, and not that I would ever have thought that you would be one of these people, but like people who don't have the patience for it, and I can kind of understand that, because the gunslinger is very very concentrated on prose and kind of
a little odd ducky.
Yeah, oh yeah. And what I love about it is, like, that is an amazing Russian nesting doll of storytelling. And I think I've said this to you either on your show or on mine or on Obsessive Viewer or on Twitter or anywhere. But the biggest thing that I love, I think that as I have had love for the Dark Tower in my heart for about a decade now, I have like it has grown in my like psyche, and my appreciation for it has grown because of the emphasis on storytelling and the different, like, this is King's magnum opus, not because he has a really cool cowboy character in a sci-fi western world that jumps through the multiverse and everything. It's his magnum opus because it is like this platform to just be this incredible, like, far-reaching, like, ode to storytelling in a weird way, because the gunslinger has this rushing nesting doll effect where there's flashbacks upon flashbacks, and then it's just this really interesting, poetic, kind of beautifully written, like, just episode of a man's journey. And then the drawing of the three is, like you've said in your podcast, is this like 80s action movie.
Oh my god.
Between worlds. It's so cool. And then the Wastelands is like this perfect meld of them, and it's so interesting the way that the series just emphasizes storytelling is just so beautiful to me, because that's King's legacy in a way. Like, when we don't like to talk about this, but when he's gone, like, we will have all of his stories forever. And like, what better way to showcase that by having this massive 4,200 page odyssey, or like epic odyssey of a journey to the tower. I love it so much.
Me too. Oh my gosh. Me too. And I really, I think this third book, I could definitely feel my heart kind of falling deeper in love with it, because Gunslinger is just such an odd little birdie. Every each one of the 5 stories in there, it's like, what's going on? Okay. This is interesting, odd, confused. Okay, we're gonna keep going. And then you get to the 5th one and blows my doors in. Like, I was like, okay, now it's getting sexy. All right, now I'm paying attention. then Drawing of the Three is just like, oh man, I feel like I always forget her name, but Uma Thurman in Pulp Fiction, where she
Oh
gets that
yeah.
just jab in the chest.
Yep.
That's how Drawing of the Three feels like. What in the hell is going on?
Yep.
In a good way.
Oh,
In a
yeah.
good way.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
an over the top
Mhm.
explosive adventure with the craziest characters who are like all cracked out,
Yep.
super on drugs, or like quite literally multiple people
Yeah.
fighting each other in one woman's body. Like wild.
Yep.
And then we kind of like, then we get to this lovely third book of the Wastelands, and it's like they turn down the gas a little bit. We
Yep.
still got a simmer, but then we get to add stuff to the soup, and we get to spice it up, and you really start to feel very nourished in this third book. Like, oh my gosh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Like, I care for these people. I care for you guys a lot.
Absolutely. And like the way that I guess we'll try to do like non-spoiler, and then we can do like a spoiler section where we can kind of freely talk about spoilers in the first 3 books, I guess.
Perfect.
So I think that there is this just intangible quality to it that it's like you're going through, you like you said, like you kind of really fall in love with the quartet in this third book, and that is just incredible to me because, like I said, it's almost like the first 2 are preamble, and a lot of people that I've met who have tried to read the Dark Tower, they kind of struggle with the first book, and I'm just like, well, I don't.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't really like to say this, but if you read the first book and you're on the fence about it, just give the Drawing of the Three a read, and if you're still not into it, then that's when you can nope out of it, because that's where things kind of click together a little bit better. Not to disparage the Gunslinger at all, but it is where it opens up a bit. And yeah, like you've referenced on your podcast about the kind of the old adage of killing your darlings and everything, and the Drawing of the Three, I mean, he puts everyone just through the ringer in that.
Oh my gosh, yes.
It's amazing.
Oh my gosh. Like, what else can happen to these people?
Exactly.
They are dying, Matt. They are dying on the beach.
Yep.
And then there are monsters waiting to eat them.
Yep.
And then like their withdrawal, they've got limbs eaten off.
Yep.
The exposure. I was like, oh my god, these people are dead. They're
it is
gonna
so
die. All
brutal, and it's so cruel from the storyteller level that he like puts Roland into, just like I said, through the ringer, and then the people that are there to assist him are a heroin user who's going through withdrawals, and a woman with split personality who is more likely to kill both of them than be of any assistance. And it is just exquisite the way that he brings us to the point where we love all of these characters and we feel the bond that they have. In the third book, when they form as the quartet, it's just so beautifully done. I love it so much.
And right as you were talking about the character, our Drawing of the Three, our 3 doors, like the main, especially Susanna. Well, at that point, Odetta and Eddie. If I were to, it's interesting because I remember that exact sort of area in Drawing of the Three when I'm reading this book and I'm with these people, and Detta is like nuts and she just won't shut up and she's insane and she's like making me nervous laugh because of all the crazy stuff she's saying. And then if I were to jump to that exact place in book 3, it's like a 180 difference of emotion.
Absolutely.
Like in Drawing of the Three, it's like I wanted to leave the party, like when it gets awkward or someone at the party gets too drunk and starts to cry and you're like, okay, gotta go.
Right.
That's how Drawing of the Three felt a little bit. You're like, oh, this Dana lady's nuts. Let's sidestep it on out of here. But I couldn't leave because I was invested already.
Oh yeah.
And then it's a 180 difference in book 3. And then by the time we get to where everybody's I'm like, I love every single one of these people and I would die for them. I would kill for them. I love them. And it's just like a 180 difference in a matter of a few hundred pages, which is quite compelling and mind-blowing to think about it. I was truly like perplexed.
Yep. It's all the magic of Stephen King. It's just so great. It's so great. To kind of pull back a little bit, so you, when did you read The Gunslinger? Did you start it in 2021?
I did. That was actually this time last year. So The Gunslinger was my first King title of 2021. I think I took most of January off. I lost a family member. It sucked. So it was like, I can't. Yeah. Oh yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. It was just one of those tragic, like gut punchy ones. Terrible. And what's so terrible is there's like so much loss all over the place. It's terrible.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so I took January off, and then right around the end of January, reading The Gunslinger, that was such a wonderful thing to focus on, like from my grief, to kind of just pour myself into dissecting this strange yet incredibly intriguing little story. And then when I got to the end, I was like blown away and totally sold on it. So January, and then I think springtime, maybe summer, Drawing of the Three.
Nice.
And then I've concluded the year with The Wasteland. So those were my different seasons.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny.
I'm shameless.
No. It's funny. We actually.
I knew you'd get it too. I was like, absolutely. Oh, he's gonna love it. He's gonna love this.
Oh yeah. It's funny. We did different seasons last year, and then we fell behind, and we haven't done the breathing method yet. So.
Oh golly.
That's next on the docket. Which, by the way, I meant to mention this.
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
I meant to mention this in the shameless self-promotion part of the beginning of this episode, and we're kind of all over the place, so I will say this. Patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. Forgot to mention the big thing that I'm doing this year is Stephen King short story collections, and $2 patrons get every Sunday they're getting a piece of my coverage of Night Shift, and that's going to run every Sunday this month. But the $10 level patrons have full access to all 6 hours of Night Shift coverage right now. So yeah, patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. Anyway.
Oh, that's so awesome. Yeah. I'm so excited you're doing that. I'm so thrilled.
I am so terrified that I'm going to fall behind, but it's exciting. It's an exciting little challenge and everything.
You take your time, Matt. People wait for good food. They really do.
I think so too, and hopefully I won't microwave anything. If I can follow that analogy.
Right. Gotta be fresh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then while we're in this weird self-promotion corner, tell us about the Year of Underrated Stephen King podcast, as if people don't already know, because they should know. But just to refresh, what is the Year of Underrated Stephen King?
Well, dear sir, the Year of Underrated Stephen King is a podcast endeavor from a university fiction teacher. That is me. I teach beginning, intermediate, and advanced fiction. And when I'm not grading up a storm and spending time with all of my student submissions, I read Stephen King to indulge with one of the greatest fiction authors of all time. I feel that I was transformed at a very ancient age of 26. That was when I first fell in love with King. That was my first King experience. And I fell deeply in love, and his work moves me. It inspires me. And I wanted to do a podcast where I could talk about King the way we do in school, like the way we analyze literature in school, the way we close read in workshops. And I was like, I want to do that with King stuff, because I would read a King book. Before I started the podcast, I would read it and just have a little party in my mind with myself. And maybe I would go on Goodreads and like see if anybody thought the same. And I was like, you know what? I got to do this. I got to do this. And there are some amazing Stephen King podcasts out there.
Oh, yeah.
And they were very nourishing. And it was, I'm so glad we have them. I'm so glad that they're out there, because they're incredibly helpful and wonderful. But a lot of them at that time were entertaining me for sure, but they weren't really nourishing my brain the way I wanted. And so I was like, no, I really want to talk. I want to break these books down. I want to get the microscope on these books a little more like we do in school. And so everybody was talking about the horror ones, and they're great, of course. And everybody was talking about the heavy hitters. The Stand, especially it. I mean, it's fantastic. And it does deserve to be covered forever.
Oh, yeah.
But, I was like falling in love with these short story collections and these books, these King books that I was like, okay, this was written in 1970. What is this book? Who's Richard Bachman? What? And so I kind of went down that rabbit hole of like, oh my God, does anybody know how great this book is? Has anybody, what is going on? Like, why is there nothing? So I just kind of started during quarantine. I read Under the Dome. Very poor choice, by the way. Not very kind to my soul. Don't read Under the Dome during an existential crisis. It's a little too much for the brain and heart. However, loved that book. Loved the hell out of it. Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that is the roots of the podcast. And since then, I have had the immense pleasure and joy to meet so many delightful people like yourself who've been so kind to me and encouraging and helpful, my God, especially with Dark Tower stuff, because I am muy confused or like just kind of spiraling. I tend to spiral if I start to kind of overthink something.
Sure.
But yeah, I've made some amazing friends, and I've made a good dent in my King journey. I think I started the podcast at 25 books, and we're almost at 40 now. I think I'm at like 39.
That's amazing.
So that's been great, right? So, but yeah, it's a literary show. It's a one-woman show. I try to entertain as best I can. I try and keep it jazzy and fun, and not super drawn out and boring. I'm sure it can get there though, but I do my best to keep it fresh and fun and interesting. And what I'm hoping is that people who have read and spent some time with these novels or with these stories will get something deeper out of it. And that's my goal.
Yes. And that is absolutely how I take the podcast. Like, there are things that like for instance, the idea that you presented while talking about the Wastelands about the color yellow in terms of villains and everything in Stephen King's work.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like I will be completely.
Is that a thing, man?
That's the thing. I have been a Stephen King fan for several decades, pretty much. Well, like 2 decades now, and then a Dark Tower fan for like a decade, and that has never crossed my radar or anything.
Oh,
yeah. So you may be onto something.
Cool.
Yeah, it's just really. It's really interesting to hear your take on Stephen King, because it is from a literary perspective, and it's something that you don't get a lot of, and it's something that always kind of enriches the text for me. So I really appreciate that you're doing the podcast, and I often get a lot out of your analysis.
You are so tremendously kind. Thank you so much. That means the world because after I publish every single episode, no joke, Matt, like every single one, I'm like, that's it, I quit. Never again. That's it. I'm done. And just because I get so nervous and I get very self-critical, we all do.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
it's a challenging thing to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
And then, or sometimes what'll happen is I will record and I was like, oh yeah, that was awesome. And then I publish it and then I realize there was so much more I wanted to say or I got that wrong. And so there's always like a desire to do more and say it different. And it's kind of a recipe for mental chaos in a way.
Oh yeah.
But I hearing that it's something that is not only tolerable but moderately enjoyable is very meaningful. So thank you so much for telling me that because it's like putting a log on a dying bonfire. The flame is still there. It has not yet gone out. The embers are vibrant little embers. So that's a nice hearty log of inspiration.
Nice.
So thank you because every episode I want to quit. I'm like, I can't. I'm a loser. I can't. No.
Well,
I'm just a little minnow in the ocean of sharks. I need to give up. So thank you. That's very meaningful.
You're very welcome, and please keep going because it is delightful.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I did want to ask you. This is a thought that just came up. So you often talk on your show about how like your grad school friends and your academic friends and everything kind of have scoffed at Stephen King. Have you been able to, and I may have asked you this before, but have you been able to turn the tide on that at all with any of your friends or anyone that has like taken a different look at Stephen King since you started doing the podcast?
Yes, that is such a great question. A little bit. I've made little strides here and there. Yeah. It's definitely taken quite a bit of elbow grease. But yeah, I've had a couple friends who I've kind of lured at least into being very interested in certain King titles like The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. Ones like that, because I was like, I need you. I have another friend of mine who's a creative writing major. She has never ever in her life read a Stephen King novel in her life. She's just not interested. She's not interested at all. She doesn't like being scared. And I was like, I understand that, but there is this one book that is short but mighty, and I want you to read it. And she's like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna read this one. I'm gonna go to the library and I'm gonna read this one.
Nice.
So I haven't talked to her in a minute, so I'm gonna follow up. But yeah, I have definitely had a few conversations specifically regarding the short story collections. One of them being I've shared from The Bazaar of Bad Dreams. Herman Wouk is Still Alive. I don't know if you've read that one.
I have not read that one.
Oh my gosh, Matt, that is kick ass. Like that thing is white hot fire, let me tell you. Like it is fire, as the kids say. And I shared that with a literary friend of mine, and he was impressed. He was definitely like, and I tried to hide the author name. He totally looked it up, but he was like, and then he kind of came back. He's like, I think this was in the New Yorker. And I was like, you're damn right it was. And so, so I've made subtle progress with mostly short story stuff. And then there was one that I'm drawing a blank on. One of my listeners sent it to me. It was published in one of the magazines, and it was
Okay.
about a breakdown. Do you remember what it is? Like, of course this happens. It was about a family breaking down by the side of the road, and it's kind of like a creepy, spooky little number.
Okay.
And the entire thing is King riffing on a Flannery O'Connor story.
Interesting.
I believe it's called A Good Man is Hard to Find.
Okay.
And it's a powerhouse story that we study in school. And
wow.
King just totally brought it to life. I'm going to have to, I'll get it to you. I'm drawing, of course, a huge blank. I'll get it to you after the show.
Okay.
But yeah, that's just King flexing his chops because he can just do no wrong. And he wanted to kind of do an homage to this famous Flannery O'Connor short story that is a powerhouse. It's dark, it's ominous, but it starts like a Susie Sunshine kind of tale, like a family driving down the road on a road trip. They get a flat tire. They're at this kind of abandoned looking gas station. Insert calamity. And yeah, so I have made some progress with the short stories.
Nice.
However, since COVID, it's been a minute. We haven't been in touch too much. But yeah, so I'm thinking The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. I'm gonna win some people with that.
Nice.
And I'm gonna win some of the snobs with the short stories. So we're making tiny steps of progress.
I'm trying to I have an idea of what that might have been.
It's like in GQ or one of those gentleman magazines.
Okay. Do you know if it's been collected?
Road something, tire something. I don't think it has. I think it was just a one-off, maybe flat tire. This is terrible.
Oh, okay.
I can go into my email and try and click around. Will the clicky sounds be not good?
Nah, you should be fine.
Okay.
But yeah, but that's interesting.
I think I can. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good. That's good that you've made some headway with that.
I think so. It's still a work in progress, but
nice.
Yeah. Let's see.
Yeah, because I remember.
Anyway, I don't want all this dead air for you.
Oh yeah. I remember there was like I don't know the Flannery O'Connor story, but there's a short story in Just After Sunset called Rest Stop where it's the guy hearing. Yeah,
that is. Oh my god, that one's gross.
Yeah,
but. I'm thinking of something else. I'm thinking about A Very Tight Place. Just about the porta potty.
Oh god.
I'm with you now. Now awesome. I remember Rest Stop. That was creepy and cool. But creepy. This one is in the same vein. Okay. But kind of. Yeah, I would love for you to read it. We'll have to chit-chat about it. I think it would be a very cool story for your upcoming Patreon episodes because what you could do if you really want to put a feather in your cap is you can read the Flannery O'Connor short story, which it's pretty good. It's dense and it ends on a gut punch, dear friend. Like, oh my gosh, you're just going to be like, holy hell. And then King kind of does this take on it, and it's in the same vibration, and it's way cool.
That sounds awesome.
It'd be pretty sexy, not gonna lie.
Oh yeah. I think I may have to do that. Hopefully I can pull everything off because that in my head I'm just like, okay, I'm figuring out like, okay, I'm gonna do this every week, and I'm like, oh, but everything else but I have all of January done, so
there you go.
Yeah.
So I will locate the title for you. A listener sent it to me, and I freaked out, and I was like, oh my god, this is from Flannery O'Connor, and it turns out that's exactly what King said. So he is so great, and he oh man, what's mind-boggling about King is he will read a famous essayist or,
Mhm.
a really powerhouse author such as Cormac McCarthy
Yeah.
or Raymond Carver,
Mhm.
all of the dudes that we study in school, all of these people who take literature and like extract all this magic out of it and all of this wonderful creativity. He reads them for a while and then he just imitates their style.
Oh yeah.
He's like, oh yeah, I was just reading them for a couple weeks and I
Yeah.
wanted to give it a crack. And you're like,
I'll riff on
what?
this. Yeah. I'll riff on this. I'll put my own
You
spin
just
on it.
riff on
Yeah.
this. Oh my god. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm like,
And
oh, okay.
yeah. And like I've said this before, but like I've seen so many like when going through the short story collections, I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, this is that episode of The Twilight Zone. Like this is him doing Rod Serling, and I'm just like, wow, I'm so just like impressed by the way that he can make it his own while also riffing on something that is in its own right iconic and has stood the test of time. Yeah. Really, really great
I
stuff.
love it so much.
Oh yeah. Oh
It's
yeah.
so great, right? So I'm
Oh, yeah.
so excited for you. I'm gonna nerd out hard
Yeah.
on that Patreon, let me tell
Oh
you.
yeah. Oh yeah. So let's get back to the Dark Tower though.
Yes.
Yes.
We'll get back on the tracks that
Yes.
Blaine the monorail is blasting on.
Yes. Should we go ahead and just open this up to spoilers, or do you want to talk non-spoiler for a little bit more, or?
I'm fine. I'm fine with crossing the line into
Okay.
spoiler town. That's fine.
Awesome. All right. Well, we are going to go into spoilers for the first 3 Dark Tower books. So that's The Gunslinger, The Drawing of the Three, and The Wastelands. Free for all. Nothing after that will be spoiled. So I am going to go ahead and play a little bit of music. So, spoilers on for The Dark Tower, books 1 through 3. So, Kim, let's start with The Gunslinger just a little bit, if you have anything you want to talk about in terms of spoilers or in terms of just the overall story that you haven't, like something that you've thought about or anything you want to talk about with The Gunslinger.
Oh my gosh, this is so fun. This is so awesome. Yes. All right, so I do have something I'd like to ask because I think it does connect to something that happens in the Wastelands.
Okay.
And to kind of get your engines warmed up on this wild question, the topic is cosmic sex or cosmic sexuality.
Yes.
So jump back, if you will, dear friend, to I think it's the 3rd installment, which is the Oracle of the Gunslinger. I think that's what the chapter is called. Please forgive me if I'm blanking or getting that wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got, and what's wild is there's like some illustrations in the copy that I had, and there's I don't know if you've seen it, but there's like phallic temple associated with this oracle thing. It's very phallic. And so it's like this place where Roland and Jake kind of wander in. I think it's Jake who wanders a little too far, and there's like some inappropriate stuff that happens.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the Roland's like on his back and there's this I don't know if succubus is the appropriate word, but there's some sort of entity, and there's a direct quote from Roland, like, have your way. I think he says, have your way, bitch. If I'm correct.
That sounds right, yeah.
So I don't know. I was like, what the hell just happened? So I kind of just let it go. Radical acceptance. First time reading Gunslinger. Let's move on. So then fast forward to me in the Wastelands, and there's this super climactic, oh my gosh, Jake is trying to come through. This house is trying to eat him. Oh my gosh, the key and Roland, and like, wow, all this action. And then Odetta, Susanna channels Detta because there's some sort of demon presence that I can't see. No one can see. And there's I don't even know how to do this, Matt. Like, I don't know if it's kind of rapey. I don't think even Detta was consenting.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I agree.
So this is invisible sex, and Detta has to let this icy penetration by an invisible demon, and she says, she's like, am I allowed to drop an F-bomb for a direct text quote?
Oh yeah. She
says, I'm gonna fuck you to death. And I died laughing, and I was like, what is going on? I'm laughing, I'm freaking out. I'm like, I'm laughing at rape. This is terrible. Damn it, Steven. Damn you. I should never be laughing at rape. And I am, because what is going on? But there is an invisible presence that is having sex with Detta Walker. But I believe there is some, she describes penetration. So my question is cosmic sex a thing in this world, man? Like, what's happening?
I will say that it's so interesting to view the Dark Tower series in terms of the sexual aspects of it. Like in The Gunslinger, this is another reason why I don't know how they could ever adapt it properly, because with Sylvia Pittston,
oh my gosh, yes,
in Tull, he basically performs an abortion with a gun to not and that's really,
you're exactly right.
Yeah, it's really it's really tricky to talk about. But
it is, because there's no and like, even I don't even know if, because there's no penetration of like the pistol anywhere. It's like the cosmic nature of the guns had some kind of power that aborted this demon fetus.
That's interesting. I always just assumed that it was like I don't know if
a penetration.
Yeah, I just imagined it to be a penetration thing, and it always made me uncomfortable. But that's an interesting read, that it's the cosmic nature of the guns.
I was so perplexed by that scene, Matt. I spent 10 minutes reading it on the podcast. I didn't even care. I was like, I have to read you guys this super effed up scene, because I don't get it. And I don't think there was ever a description of penetration, which could have been just King tiptoeing around that. But no, I think it was like the magic, the magic or the power.
Huh.
That's a theory. That's a theory I have. Could be wrong, of course.
I think that you might be onto something. I will say that the movie did not handle that at all. Because the movie's garbage. But anyway.
Rightly so.
Yeah. Yeah. But in terms of
I love to hear the vitriol that the film gets.
Oh, yeah. And I've seen people who like the movie and enjoyed the movie. There's a few people out there that I've seen, and more power to them and everything. If you like the movie, that's fine. But I mean, the reason that this podcast exists is because Tiny and I had 5 hours worth of recording about the movie. And I was just like, let's just start a Dark Tower podcast. But,
I love that. I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah. And
I love things born out of hatred.
Absolutely. And it's something that wasn't even, it was funny because on the Obsessive Viewer Facebook page, when Tiny and I saw the Dark Tower in the theater together wearing Dark Tower t-shirts, we were excited, and then we did a Facebook live video of our reaction to it, and it's in the audio of it is in our first episode, and it's so funny because it's our immediate reaction, and it's us dancing around saying well, I liked this thing, and it was before we really I don't know. We were still holding out hope, but then it just, it was an ordeal. But yeah, some of the things in the first 3 books that the movie handles is just weird. Like, obviously they don't do the Sylvia Pittston thing, but they do the doorway demon for Jake, and it's like, it is laughable. It's like this. It's this pivotal moment in the story, in the book, in the series, and it's like just a not blink and you miss it thing, but it's just this very like blockbuster action thing in the movie that has really no substance at all. It isn't them trying to pull him in. It's just him going out there. It's really dumb. But anyway,
I feel you. I agree. The only thing I liked about the movie was the casting choice. That was the only thing.
Me too. And
I was like, I like these actors. That's it.
Oh yeah. And like, I never expected that the kid playing Jake would be like the kind of standout performance, and they all did fine, but I don't know, he did something a little bit interesting with the role, sort of. But I mean, I love Idris Elba and Matthew McConaughey, and
Same.
And I had such a stick up my ass about people that were complaining about Idris Elba being cast, and like you
yeah, they can kick rocks. That's dumb.
Oh, absolutely.
He was great.
Yeah. And like, people were saying like, well, it's important because Susanna's black and she's yelling at them because in Drawing of the Three because of their white guys and everything. And I'm like, that's literally like minimum or like maximum 100 pages of a 4,200 page story. Like, you might be projecting a little bit on that. But anyway, so cosmic sex.
Cosmic sex, right?
Yes.
So I don't know if you'll be able to answer this question because it might be a spoiler, but is that something the Man in Black does? Is he like a cosmic rapist?
Oh, that's an interesting question.
Yeah. So we only hear about the Man in Black and the Gunslinger during that Sylvia Pittston area. That's where we hear about oh no, I take that back. We hear about the Crimson King.
Yes.
That's what I meant to say. Is cosmic sex something the Crimson King does?
Yes, because Sylvia Pittston was impregnated by him with his child. Yes. So yeah, what I'll say is that I will say that these moments aren't so like, I don't know, like on the surface you can kind of see like, oh, this is kind of, especially like with a 2021, 2022 lens, you can say like, oh, this is kind of just gratuitous and really like rapey, like you said, and non-consensual and everything. But in terms of the story, the overarching story, like it does, what I'll say is that it isn't just this shock value thing. It does pertain to the story at large in some certain ways. If that's enough for it to necessitate the kind of grossness of it is kind of to each individual reader's reaction, I guess. But I kind of find it really interesting given the way that King writes and how he usually just lets the words flow and then puts things together as they come. And it's just interesting the way that he is able to kind of call back to certain things and do certain things in the greater story. So I'll say that. But and I'll also say that this weird cosmic sex stuff is not really a one-off in the three books. It's something that I think happened. There's stuff in the later books that address that. I'll say that. Yeah.
This is great. Okay. This is great, Matt, because as long as I know there's purpose behind it or this is a thing, if this is a thing, I get it. Like, I can really let go of any sort of reaction that's
Mhm.
I can let go of a shocked reaction and focus on the story more.
Yeah.
Because I'm getting my guess the way it happens with Detta.
Mhm.
Thank goodness it happened in the Gunslinger, because even though it was shocking when it happened with Detta, and I was like, oh my gosh,
Mhm.
the fact that it was the second time I had seen something like this, I was like,
Yeah.
okay, is this a thing? So I'm so glad to know that it is. That's
Yeah.
actually incredibly helpful,
Mhm.
because I'm just going to suspend the shock
Yeah.
and be like, I think there's purpose to this for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm very eager to see how your position on that, or how your thoughts on that kind of evolve as you go through the series. That's what I'll say to that.
Yay!
Yeah. Um, but it is pretty. It's pretty hard to. It's pretty hard to read like Detta's whole section in the Wastelands, especially with like just the fact that like Eddie is there,
Yeah.
and like the stress of all that is just painful, and also just the ticking clock of him
Dude.
having to carve the thing. It's just it's incredible.
Oh my gosh. Yes. So intense. Here's the other thing. I think Susanna is totally pregnant.
Oh yeah,
Holy crap.
I remember
She's
you. Yeah.
totally pregnant. And we hear about that like right after the battle with Shardik.
Mhm.
She was like, I missed a period, and I think that might be a thing.
Mhm.
But I'm just gonna keep that on the down low. I'm just gonna not say anything yet, but
Mhm.
I'm keeping an eye on it. And like, you don't say that, unlike like the rules in fiction is like use it or lose it.
Oh, yeah.
Like if you're not gonna use that information, you better chop it. So I
Yeah.
know it's a thing. I know it's huge. And then we hear about it toward the end,
Mhm.
where she talks about like more sort of feminine curiosity stuff.
Mhm.
Like, I feeling a little preggers. So the fact that I knew or had my suspicions that she was pregnant
Mhm.
very early in the story, then we get to cosmic, invisible ice sex
Yeah.
penetration. Remember? I was like, this is awful. This is awful. This pregnant woman is being raped by an ice demon.
Yep.
And I guess I'm my guess, I don't know, and you don't have to answer me
Okay.
this if it's going to be a spoiler. I think it's the Crimson King. I think he's a little
Interesting.
invisible rapist.
Okay.
All over Midworld, raping
Mhm.
raping women and men and everyone.
Sure.
Just this invisible, all-powerful incubus.
Yep.
So yeah,
Interesting.
that was like cringy a little, because you're like,
Yeah.
Susanna's pregnant. This is an ice demon.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is Susanna's body, but Detta's craziness. But oh my god, I must also take a second. Matt, Susanna Dean is the coolest person ever.
Oh
like,
yeah. Oh yeah.
There is no other way to articulate, like, this is a bad bitch. Like, and I
Yeah.
mean that with all the joy in my heart. Like,
Yep.
this lady is so cool.
Oh
I
yeah.
have never experienced a cooler king woman. I am blown away by this nut job. I'm
Mhm.
like, this is amazing. I would teach a whole class on Susanna Dean. I would teach an
Nice.
entire semester on her. I
Oh, that's
cannot get
awesome.
over the coolness.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And like, I love that the melding together of Detta and Odetta isn't just like, oh, okay, now I'm done with that. Like, King is so good at just extrapolating on certain like small things or big things in his writing. So like, okay, I'm going to put these two personalities together. They're going to create Susanna. And then it's like he creates these hardships for himself in the writing. And then he doesn't let it go or anything. Like he could have easily just been like, okay, now Detta and Odetta are gone, and so now she's just Susanna. But now it's like, oh no, she can call Detta to fucking ice demon, and then do whatever. It's just,
oh my god, I'm gonna be laughing about that at like 2 a.m. Oh my god.
And
that was awesome.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. And it's like it brings so much more depth to the character as well, because she has such a just rich and messed up history. And yeah, and like one of the things that I really was pleased with in your episode on the Wastelands is that you're on the Eddie and Susanna train. You are behind their relationship, and because that is one of the concerns with the drawing of the threes, because it does happen pretty suddenly that they just kind of fall in love. It doesn't really feel as organic as a lot of Stephen King relationships are in his books, but
definitely.
Yeah, but it definitely is fleshed out in the Wastelands. So I'm glad that you connected with that as well.
Me too. Because I was pretty upset in Drawing of the Three when dumb Eddie is like, I love you, and I'm like, shut up, you're a child, get out of here, and then seeing them at the end of where we leave off in Drawing of the Three, and then just kind of having this wonderful, rich, like you said, incredibly organic, like commitment, like the fact that she takes his last name, things like that. It's like, okay, that's very intimate. That's like super commitment, and that's quite precious, and it's charming, and it just blooms. It blooms so much in Drawing of in Wastelands that I was like, yes. I love it. They are the Bennifer to me. They are. Oh man,
nice. Absolutely,
love it so much.
Yeah. In the characterization. Oh, go ahead. I was just going to say the characterization is just so rich, because you have Susanna, and then you have Eddie dealing with just the memory of his brother and living up out of, like, realizing that he's now out of his brother's shadow, and still having that needling in his brain. That's like that lack of confidence when he has to do this literal life or death thing is just so compelling to me. And it's something that just is just so rich. I love it so much.
You mentioned the most amazing subject. I'm so glad you brought it up, because Eddie's brother Henry, in Drawing of the Three, the reader gets the idea that like Eddie really looked up to his brother, that Henry was like, he went to Vietnam, he got hooked on smack, it wasn't his fault, it was really sad, and he comes home, and Eddie just talks about how he admires how Henry always like looks polished and like always put together, and then in the Wastelands, we find out that like Henry was a piece of garbage.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And was terrible, and was a terrible brother. And that was a huge like wrench in my spokes for character development. But I loved it, because you're like, oh, wait a minute. I got that was wrong. Like, he didn't look up to Henry. He was just maybe in the drug-induced perception of his brother. He and his brother were both like addicted, and so now that he's totally sober, he has all of these memories from childhood, all of this repressed trauma from being abused by his older brother, and like ridiculed and belittled. And that was a tough pill to swallow, because I liked Henry in Drawing of the Three, and then in Wastelands you're like, oh my god, what a piece of shit, like, whoa, that's terrible.
And it's so interesting.
I'm so glad you brought up that characterization.
And it's so interesting how it is a different perspective, because like you said, Eddie is now sober, and it's so interesting to me that he has this admiration when he's hooked on heroin and everything, that when he's hooked on drugs, he has this admiration, this kind of it almost maybe it's not there too much, but like it's almost like he's projecting on like rationalizing his addiction, because his brother had kind of a less what's the word I'm looking for? Like a less deliberate route into drug addiction, I guess. But then when he, so he has these rose-colored glasses, and then he sobers up, and they're just regular glasses. It's really cool. I love the way King writes the characters.
I love it too. And I love when we get a kind of redemption, especially via addiction. I love when King allows addicted characters to heal. I love that so much because I mean, obviously he experienced that himself. So he's really kind of writing about his own journey to sobriety with these. We get to relive that through these characters, what he must have seen, how you see the world differently when you're not under the influence. I love that with King characters when they get that redemptive healing. The novel Revival does that really well.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh my god, so good. Jamie Morton does that so well. And I love that Eddie, he overcomes and is sober, but yet he still is like this hilarious New York City wise guy.
Yep.
And the part I'm going to share with you, I'm still laughing about it. It was just a line from Eddie that just has me dying. And it's when Roland is being really serious, like super duper serious, like he has forgotten the face of his father, like the oath and like all of and he's trying to get Eddie to buy in because Eddie's freaking out about the key. He's like, I can't do this. This is too intense. No way. And Roland's like something like, you've forgotten the face of your father or your father. And Eddie's like, I don't give a dick about my father. No, that's what he says. He's like, I don't care dick about my father. And I died. It was the hugest cackle laugh because
that's awesome.
he keeps him Eddie, who is just like hilarious and just this city kid who's gonna be super duper brash and speak his mind and blunt and crass, and he doesn't care about Roland's like serious this gunslinging knight oath. He's like, I don't care dick about my father. I don't care. Shut up. I don't care. I died. I loved it much, and that's why Eddie is such a treasure. And I love he's such an oddball too. Like this cast of characters, when you really zero in and describe each and every one of them, and you're like, yeah, this is the crew. This is the gang. We've got this hybrid, precious, raccoon dog thing that talks. We have this like 20-something New York street punk and this demon-ish woman with multiple personalities. And then this guy who's a really good gun shooter, and he's really serious about the tower. That he's got to get to, and they're just hanging out with him. So it's a hard sell. I get why people give up after. But what a rewarding experience it is if you make it to the Wastelands and get to read the Wastelands. Such a joy. It's worth all of the head scratching. All the head scratching is worth it.
Oh, absolutely. It is such a rich story. And like, honestly, I would say top 2 favorite Stephen King characters of all time are Roland and Eddie.
So good.
Yeah, they're just amazing. And Susanna's up there too. And Jake and Oi. The whole family. It's so good. So what was your next question?
My next question is one that so this is toward the end of the Wastelands. This is at that big kind of explosive battle with the TikTok man. That was wild. And there's this guy who comes into the frame named Richard Fannin. And he is talking to the TikTok man who should be dead. He is not. And this sounds very familiar to that of somebody named Randall Flagg. So the thing is this Richard Fannin guy is like got this robish looking thing, this costume that I think is described what the Men in Black looked like around Gunslinger times, when he and Roland were having their little palaver at the fire and doing a little tarot card reading, which is my favorite zone of the story. That's kind of what the Men in Black look like. So I pretty much self-combusted a little bit. And my question, Matt, oh my God, is Randall Flagg the Man in Black?
I mean, it's hard to say.
Okay.
What I will say is, for anyone listening who has gotten through the first 3 books of the Dark Tower series, I think maybe it would be fun to read The Stand before going on to Wizarding Class.
Okay.
That's what I'll say about that. It's where, and what's interesting is that the story and the series gets even more weird as it goes on. So like, this is a pretty tame idea that you are presenting, that I'm not going to say one way or the other, but
okay, interesting.
Yeah, but yeah, I would say a familiarity with The Stand before reading Wizarding Class is and it's not like it's required reading or anything, and ultimately it's just like a small connection that you can draw in Wizarding Class, but it would be a rewarding experience, I think.
Okay.
And also The Stand is incredible, so yeah.
It is, and I've read half of it, and for the life of me, The Matrix must have been reset in 2015 because I don't know what happened, Matt, because I got 600 pages in, and everybody got to Mother Abigail's house in Nebraska, and something happened. I don't know what, and I have no memory or recollection of it, but I shelved the book, and I went back to my life, and I started reading something else, and I just stopped, and I don't know why. So I didn't get as far as I would have liked, but I was halfway in. I don't get it. The Matrix clearly was reset. So clearly. So I don't have a lot of however, I have seen some of the Stand adaptations, so I know what goes down.
Sure.
But okay, I'm going to hold that in the little thought bubble.
Yeah.
Because I'm spiraling on if he is the Man in Black a little bit, because then I'm like, oh, whoa.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That changes a lot of things.
Yep.
So I'll keep that in a little thought bubble. The other thing in conjunction with that is when I first was trying to decipher the Gunslinger, I compared the Man in Black and the Crimson King to Sauron from Lord of the Rings and Saruman from Lord of the Rings. And I wanted to ask if that's an accurate comparison, or am I a little misguided with that?
I would say that is a pretty accurate, a fairly accurate assessment. It's something that I never really put together. That was one of the things I really liked about your coverage of the Gunslinger, is that you really drew all the comparisons to Tolkien that I kind of took for granted, or I kind of wasn't really cognizant of. And like it's big. Like there's a lot. Like people say like, oh, The Stand is Stephen King's Tolkien, post-apocalyptic like fantasy thing, but like he also drew much inspiration for the Dark Tower series. So I would say that the Crimson King and the Man in Black are akin to Sauron and Saruman.
Okay.
I would say that is an apt assessment. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, that's helpful, because we've got these 2 floating names, and I'm like, all right, Crimson King seems like this really ethereal, invisible, like big bad that he's so evil he cannot even take physical form. He's just, ice raping people. So, like an evil Zeus of Midworld, just making demigods with fertile women, maybe fertile men too. I don't know about this Midworld place. Maybe men get pregnant. I don't know. So
that would be very Kingian. So yeah.
I'm open. I am so open to all the crazy that it could happen. So that is very helpful.
Nice.
Because but yeah, this Randall Flagg thing definitely kind of sucker punched me at the end of the Wastelands because I was like, oh, what are you doing here? What are you doing here?
Yeah.
What does this mean?
And
what
also,
are you doing here?
Yeah.
So,
and also, like, I mentioned this before we recorded, but like, just imagine like reading that book in like 91 and then having to wait until 97 to read Wizarding Class. Like,
oh my god,
just,
is it 6 years? I did not know that.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Just insane. And I'm so lucky that I, didn't have to suffer through that. Like, I came to the Dark Tower in 2010. Oh my gosh. But man, it's that I can't imagine.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
No. That is terrible. I had no idea. I hadn't researched Wizard and Glass yet. So I went, oh my god, Matt, that is significant and terrible. Wow.
Yep. That's
wild.
Yeah. He was getting like threatening letters and hate mail.
Sure.
Yeah, for it. Yeah, it's insane. So, in your episode on the Wastelands, you had questions about the beams.
Yes, thank you so much for bringing that up. I think I don't get what they are, Matt. If you could help me with that.
Okay, so I'm curious how much is in the Wastelands about the beams, because it is a big kind of exposition dump, I'm sure, but basically the beams are this kind of cosmic energy that, for all intents and purposes, is holding up the tower. And it's like they're like spokes on a wheel, and each beam runs throughout all of, I think it's in-world, end-world, mid-world, and in-world. Yeah. So like the entire everything in Roland's world that has moved on. And these beams are holding up the tower, and each one is guarded by by a kind of mystical or mechanical animal. So Shardik the bear is the guardian of one of the beams. So they were on like the path of the bear, and Shardik is this mechanical bear that has the satellite dish on his head and everything. And I think he was made by, one of the corporations that have been referenced, the Lemerck Industries or North Central Positronics. North Central Positronics probably. But anyway, so the actual like visual representation of the beam is sort of non-existent. They use it as a and again, this is one of the great things about it. We're in the third book, and that's when we get like the idea of how they're even going to navigate to the tower. Like 3 books in. Wow. Yeah. And that's like how you go to the tower. So the beam is represented by, when they look in the sky and they see like clouds moving in a certain direction, like a thin layer of clouds moving in a direction, that's how they know they're on the path of the beam, because they're going in that direction. So that's kind of their North Star, their guiding star for the tower. Yeah. And it's pretty cool because like in the Dark Tower subreddits and stuff, people will like just take pictures of like the sky where like clouds are like going in a certain direction. They're like, oh, I'm on the path of the beam.
Oh, that's so awesome. Yeah. I love the Tower fans. Me too. So cool. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. This is so helpful because for whatever reason, I think I couldn't get out of my mind like a beam of light, like a light beam. Oh, yeah. And I was like, is this like a yellow brick road? Like, what is it? What is it? Okay, that's very, very helpful.
Yeah.
the Shardek beam we follow.
Yeah. And it's really interesting because simultaneously we get the navigation aspect of going to, and it kind of feels like when King wrote The Wastelands, this is just conjecture on my part, but it kind of feels like he's just like, okay, we were 2 books in. Okay, we need to get the Katet on the road to the tower. So let's just do this beam thing, and then it just feels like a couple hundred pages later, he's like, all right, let's just put him on a train and just have him just go nuts and cover a lot of ground because we're already 3 books in and they haven't made much headway.
That actually works because I think he was on one of the talk shows in the morning, or maybe it was a publication, I don't remember, but he was talking about when he was writing The Stand, he had like hundreds of pages and a zillion characters, and he was like, what am I gonna do? And he took like a month off, and he was just walking around the woods every day, and he's like, I'm just gonna blow up a lot of I'm just gonna cause a huge explosion and knock off a few. I love that story so much.
It's so great. It's so great.
These creative decisions that just come forth. Of like, oh whoops, I made too many muffins, just gotta eat some, I guess.
Exactly.
So
oh, that's great. Yeah.
So helpful. I would love for you to see my actual notepad. I'll have to send you a picture.
Oh yeah,
because I have the Men in Black / Richard Fannin, and then I have Sex Demon W / Data. I have Susanna is pregnant ? And then my last one is Grays / Pubes, which
I love the idea of someone finding that, and like, I'm assuming like you don't have like a heading on it or anything. It's just like Grays and Pubes, Sex Demon.
Oh God! Here's hoping I'm not murdered and the detectives looking over my body don't find that on my nightstand.
What could this all mean?
Right? Let's decode.
Oh,
can you imagine if they got like they sent it to a code cracker?
Yeah.
To see if I was writing in secrets. Oh my gosh. LOL to that.
Yeah. And then,
but the city of Lud was wild, and are Grays and Pubes a singular Lud thing?
I believe so. I will say I will say that the amount of information about the Grays and Pubes that are contained in the Wastelands is the amount of information that you will have regarding the Grays and Pubes throughout the entire Dark Tower saga. Like they don't.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's not something that recurs, but yeah, it's just 2 factions in a post-apocalyptic Lud that are trying to kill each other. I'm always a little bit foggy on that, specifically because it's strictly a Lud thing. But yeah, they're just two factions. Kind of gives a little bit more texture to Midworld, which I appreciate, because I feel like the Wastelands is the most one of the heaviest in terms of Midworld mythology in the series, because we get a lot in the rest of the books, but I think this is mostly the first time that we get like just bombarded with like, oh, this is the stature of gunslingers, and the world has moved on, and how the world has moved on, and there's talking trains.
Absolutely. There is one that I forgot to write down on my notebook, but it just popped into my mind, so I'm super excited. So Roland talks about a certain illness / plague called Horror's Blossom, which LOL to that. But Horror's Blossom, and some of these Lud, I wonder if King meant to call the city of Lud so we could call them Luddites.
I was wondering that too.
I've got but I'm with you on that theory. The Luddites / citizens of Lud seem to have this affliction Roland calls whore's blossom, which it sounds like from the text they just have this freakish form of leprosy, I think. But I wanted to ask about that. If it is leprosy, or are they like zombie people?
I think it's fairly open to interpretation. I don't think it's anything too exact. There might be something later that gives more context to it, but I always equated it with radiation sickness and radiation poisoning. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That works. Okay. That slaps, as the kids say.
Right.
I work with so many Gen Z that like they're bleeding into my life.
Nice.
I'm sorry.
I'll make a TikTok to really dive into to Midworld.
There you go. I'm gonna send you this wonderful, I think it was on a Dark Tower subreddit where it was if Gen Z wrote the Gunslinger.
I saw
Did
that.
You see that?
I
died.
Perfect.
Oh
it's
my gosh.
Absolutely perfect.
The man in black yeeted across the desert.
Yes. It's so great.
And the Gunslinger thought it was sus and no cap or something. I know I butchered it, but like it's magical. I'm so glad you have seen it.
It's so great. I was cracking up over that. I'm trying to find it because I know that I have it in my phone somewhere because it is just perfect. And I am struggling to find it. I know that here it is.
Yeah, let me know when you do. Okay.
Yeah. The man in black yeeted across the desert and the gunslinger simped. The desert hit different, huge, standing to the sky for what looked like eternity in all directions. It was sus and cringe and low-key in need of a glow-up.
Oh my god, I can't.
God. It's so perfect.
Oh my gosh. It's the perfection.
Is so perfect.
The perfection for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love it so much. The radiation thing, I'm so that works so much. And right as you said that, I was thinking about the Tommyknockers, which I read this year because that was a huge part in that book. One of the characters, Ray Gardner, he's he's moderately unlikable, and he's a very belligerent drunk, and he gets wasted at a party, and he's just going on and on about like nuclear war in Russia, and you're like, oh my god, shut up. But then later on, you realize that the radiation thing was like a thing, and that's what that's why everybody's teeth are falling out in the city of Haven, and it's wild because these alien ships are just like poisoning everyone. So the fact that we've got radiation all over Lud, that makes so much sense. That is so huge. Thank you, because sometimes you miss things when you're reading, and that might have been there, but clearly went right over my head.
Yeah. Because, I mean, it's so dense with information, and since it is this completely other world, like, it's one of the things that makes me, like, scared to read more fantasy, because I'm like, I need to learn, like, all of this stuff. And,
it's a lot.
Yeah,
it's heavy.
Is. Oh, yeah. But when it works,
I have
it
to
works
do
really
it a lot
well.
with my... Oh, my gosh, and this is magic. But, yeah, with my students, when they bless them, they're so precious because they start writing, and they've been thinking about these fantasy stories for like years and years and years.
Yeah. And
it just explodes out of them, and it's a hot mess, and it's crazy. And I was like, all right, you gotta tell me about this world. Like I'm a newborn baby. I'm just like a little toddler.
Yeah.
Like you gotta make it digestible for me.
Oh yeah.
Because they just want to world build until they explode, which I think that's what The Wastelands is this wonderful, I feel like it's like this fast moving Tetris game, but he never gets clogged. Like it's just awesome Tetris.
Absolutely. Yes. That's a great way to describe
it. It's so cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
it's
You're just watching the
Yeah.
Tetris Tower get built.
Nice. Absolutely. And what's interesting is that I don't know how much of the comics are like on your radar or anything, and I know that's like down in the future and everything, but I will say that like what's interesting is that the Dark Tower, obviously Stephen King's magnum opus, world building, all that stuff is great. What I find really interesting about that also is that it's sad and tragic because the Frank Muller did the narration for the audiobooks for the first 4 books. And then when King, like sometime after that, he was in a motorcycle accident and eventually passed away. And so in King's, I think in the afterword for, I think it's for Wolves of the Kala, he kind of like eulogizes Frank Muller and says that like every time that he goes to write a Dark Tower story, he like in order to remember like all the bits and pieces and everything, he listens to the audiobooks and like he credits Frank Muller for bringing his vision to life and everything. And like it's really sad and tragic, but like it's just really interesting the way that he has to keep all of that together. And he, at a certain point, Robin Firth was hired as his research assistant, I think. And she is like the gatekeeper of Dark Tower lore. And she knows all about the Dark Tower. And yeah. And when Marvel, and I might be getting some of this information a little bit wrong, but when Marvel adapted or made the Dark Tower comic books, I think she was like the head writer, or she was like the main force to put everything on there and have it be consistent and have it be right. And I believe she wrote a majority of them. So it's really interesting to read the books, and then once you finish it, read the comics, because the comics, they kind of, there's a couple of different different series that they run. Like it's kind of sad because they basically do Wizard and Glass, and then they did like the first, I think they did the Gunslinger and Drawing of the Three. I don't think they ever got to the Wastelands, and then it got canceled or they didn't finish it. But I wish they would have done the entire season, the entire saga and everything. But that reading those is really interesting because it fleshes out a little bit more of Midworld and the mythology and everything in some really interesting ways that isn't necessarily in the books, but I highly recommend reading them when you finish the series. That's what I'm getting at, basically. More assignments for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for telling me about that. I did not know there were comic books. So I might have, or somebody might have told me, but I forgot. So this is huge. Mm-hmm. That is amazing. So I can't read any until I read all, right? Like I can't cheat and go read.
Yeah, okay. That would probably be your best bet. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's very difficult. I am very tempted to just like I want to see all the beautiful art. I want to see like how they draw these characters that I now love so much.
Oh yeah.
That is so nice, and that'll be like a treat I can look forward to.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
oh yeah.
So once I make my way through, that is so exciting. Thank you. And I'm going to do my best not to look them up and try and cheat.
Nice.
I promise. I promise I won't.
Nice.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
This is what's so fun.
Oh yeah.
This is what's so fun about like talking to Tower folks, because I feel like I'm just such like a little dumb kid. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, they're like, yeah, girl, you didn't know about this, and I was like, no. And so I feel like I'm just this elementary school kid who gets to the middle school, to the big kids, and Yeah. And yeah,
Nice.
that's really how it feels. They're like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, there's like this companion piece,
Mhm.
there's comic books, there's this other thing that I'm sure exists that I don't know about. So it's so fun talking with
Yeah.
color folks. So thank you.
Oh,
This is
absolutely.
awesome.
I had a question for you, and we can kind of start wrapping up too, because I don't want to take up too much of your night. But
No, it's the weekend, so it's
yeah.
chill. However, I
Nice.
feel the later it gets, the dumber I get. So
Sure. I'm the same way,
like
honestly.
the same. I get more slap happy, I get less coherent, I get silly. So I would hate to inflict that on your dear listeners.
Okay.
But
Well,
yeah,
I
for it.
think you might be safe because you may have just described the last 8.5 years of podcasting that I've done. So,
Good to know.
so you're in a safe
Good
space.
to know. Gotcha.
But so what I found interesting, so the Blaine Lamano, that whole thing it is such a just batshit crazy thing element to it in an already batshit crazy series. But what I found interesting after I haven't I have read The Hobbit. I did read The Hobbit. But I haven't read The Lord of the Rings or anything. But I've seen the movies and everything. So
yeah,
when they get to Blaine Lamano and he forces them under penalty of death or before they're going to die or whatever to tell him riddles and everything, did you make a connection to, is it in The Hobbit that Bilbo, when he encounters Gollum, does he tell him riddles?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
So
you are so right. I missed that. That's awesome.
Yeah, when I saw the first Hobbit movie or something, which the Hobbit movies are not good. I'm sour on that because I love the Lord of the Rings movies, but when that scene happened, I was like, oh, that's where King got that. Okay. It's another example of King kind of riffing on something.
Oh, totally. Yeah, we could definitely do the Gollum riddle session, which was very creepy. They were in, I don't remember which dwarven mine it was, or mountain, not mine. But the other thing, right as you were saying that, it made me think of, do you know the fairy tale Rumpelstiltskin?
Not really, actually. I know it. I know the kind of pop culture references to it, but I'm not too familiar with it.
It's a really fun little story. It's a dark little fairy tale. But the reason I bring it up is because the whole he's a little monster. He's kind of like an evil gnome. And he makes a deal with a very desperate girl in the story, who is down on her luck. And she promises her firstborn child if he will save her from being killed, or provide a more beneficial situation for her. And so, of course, he comes to seeking payment. And so he asks, he's like, the only way you can undo this deal is if you guess my name. And so she sends all these people far and wide throughout the villages to try and find his name. And so it's all about guessing and trying to figure out and unscramble the riddle. And so thankfully he gives her a lot of chances. And so she's listing off all these names. She's like, Charlie, Brady, Buckethead, Pimple Face, whatever. She'll just, whatever name she could find. And he's like, nope. And so I kind of got a little bit of that dark fairy tale lore where you get the pleading with the mind games of the monster, we'll call it.
Yeah.
The puzzle nature of the monster, where the monster just wants, he feels fully in his power and he's gonna destroy you. Gollum fully intended to kill Bilbo. He was playing with his food. That's what that whole thing was. Because he knew that he couldn't be outsmarted. He just knew he couldn't. And he kind of wasn't. He guessed the riddles, but he ended up escaping by putting the ring on and going invisible. And that's how he squeaked out of that. So I think we have the puzzle, the sort of mind games of the monster.
Nice.
But Rumpelstiltskin is like one of the coolest dark little fairy tales, and I won't spoil it for you, but it's hella good.
Nice. I'll
As
have
you
to
can
check it out.
imagine, they do guess his name, and yeah, it's really cool. So I thought of that because Blaine the Mono is playing with his food quite a bit
Yes.
with the quartet on board, and that is one of the creepy coolest. Oh man, that was awesome.
Yeah.
And I started to freak out as the pages started to get smaller and smaller. And rightly so. Rightly so. That was a terrible feeling.
Oh, yeah.
That was a terrible feeling.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I think super great, accurate comparison to Bilbo and Gollum, who scares me very much.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay, so to kind of wind down, do you have any like other thoughts or any theories about the series going forward? What do you want to see happen in the Dark Tower series? And I will not react.
This is an amazing question. Well, what I want to happen is I want Eddie and Susanna to have a nice big wedding, and I want Roland to find a nice lady and everybody get married and have happy ever after. That's what I want. Am I going to get that? No. We're going to have bloodshed and God knows what else. Because I think what I believe will happen is Roland, for me, is kind of a creature of fate, it seems. He is tied to the tower, whatever this immense universe-holding entity is, and he's just obsessed and he has tunnel vision, and it's never going to allow him, at least my hypothesis is it's just never going to allow him to ever turn his back on it, and he can never fully open up to those he loves, even though he loves them deeply. I mean, he's a tragic character, man. This kid he's absolutely ruled by fate. His fate is tied to the tower, and it makes me sad because I think everybody in the quartet, I just foresee doom for all of them, which I hope I'm wrong. I'm wrong, but I just foresee that everybody who loves Roland, it's going to be like Roland is the rock they're all going to break themselves against. Like, they're just going to die for him, and he won't die for them because he has to get to the tower. And it's sad because what I noticed this abundantly in the Wastelands with this line, because there's this amazing like father-son bond there, right? It's precious and beautiful. And like he's holding Jake and he's hugging him, and they're all like, never again, like don't leave me, don't drop me, all those things. And he's like, I won't. And then King in the next breath in the next second is like, but there's just like, this guy is just do you remember in Inception when in Leo DiCaprio, his character, I forget his name, and with his wife, spoiler alert, he spins the top and he does that to her. Like he wants to see if Inception works, and he spins the top and kind of ruins her forever. I feel like that's Roland. Roland is
such
the
a good
Maul
comparison
of our Nolan tale.
Yes.
Like Roland's top is forever spinning, and he's never ever 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 gonna let it go. It's just not. It's his fate to never let it go. And so and that's heartbreaking because I have that knowledge now in book 3, and we got a long road to go. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that like something develops and like that spinning top gets stopped or knocked out of its orbit. That would be great. I hope that Susanna's baby's okay, and I hope it's not a monster because she got raped by the Crimson King. I'm assuming, don't know for sure. Hypothesis. I think it was the Crimson King who like invisible ice rape. So I'm hoping that little fetus wasn't warped. Because I'm very concerned, Matt. I'm hoping Jake. I hope we get to see Jake grow up. I think that'd be cool. Maybe if we get to see good things for him. maybe he'll get some powers. Maybe he'll get some powers to help him, because I was really sad for him. He got hurt a lot with Gasher, who was like preying upon him and hurting him, and that was heartbreaking to read.
Horrifying. Yeah.
Hated that.
Oh,
Hated
yeah.
that. I always hate when like King Youth gets physically abused. I mean, all abuse, like emotional, psychological, sexual. I hate it all. But like, there's something especially terrible when it's like someone you love and treasure, like young Jake. So that was awful. So I really want Jake to get like some voodoo wizardry to protect himself from being harmed. Like, he needs somebody teach him how to shoot so he could like start capping people out there and protect himself, because he needs that. I'm worried about him. Him and Oi. Oi got really hurt too. And damn it, don't hurt Oi. I will kill you. Don't hurt him.
Oi so much. Like,
I do too.
It's so,
oh man.
Yeah. It's I don't know. I'm just so happy that King included like Billy Bumblers into like this world. Like, it's just such a adorable concept. And the bond that forms between him and Jake is just so beautiful and lovely. I love it.
We needed some preciousness for sure. I am obsessed with Oi. I love him so much. And he was getting hurt in that TikTok battle or the TikTok man and the Greys. They were hurting him. I was freaking out. I was not about it. So I'm hoping that Jake gets either he gets some shooters, he gets some guns, or he learns some magic real quick here, and like, or gets a jawbone and like beats people's face in with it. I would like that. I'd be okay with that as well. So that's what I'm hoping for. But I am really looking forward to romance in this next section. I'm hoping to find out more about my hypothesis of Randall Flagg equals Man in Black ? Don't know. I think that's all I have for right now. I am especially greedier than this, so when I go to sleep at night, I'll be thinking of more things I want. But
of course,
overall, I definitely want Susanna and Eddie to have a healthy baby and live happily ever after. I don't think that's going to happen. Because King never lets us have joy for long. So we never get happiness for long. So, so I don't know if that's am I close in anything, or is it just like,
there are some aspects of the things that you've said have me just all the more excited for you to continue reading. I'll say that, because it's such a good series. I love it so much. It's like my and Tiny's like favorite property, IP, what have you. It's our favorite piece of art, basically. And it's something that I cherish so much. So yeah. So it's one of the reasons why it's such a joy to watch you or listen to you discover it and everything. It's a lot of fun.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
I'm so glad. I didn't think I would like it as much as I do. I did not think, especially because, like, it took a minute, because Gunslinger, I was looking at it like a teacher. I was like, all right, let's analyze this. Let's do the homework. Let's do the work. And then by the end, I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. I'm getting warmed up. And then Drawing of the Three, a little warmer, still crazy, okay. And then Wastelands, I'm like, oh my god, I'm obsessed. I absolutely
nice.
I am one of you. I am one of you.
Nice. So, well, welcome to the club.
I'm in love. Yay, cool. So I didn't think I would love it as much as I do. And now I'm like, although I'm confused a lot still, I'm hoping to. Oh yeah, that's the last thing. North Central Positronics. I don't know what that is at all. I got nothing. I'm like, what is that?
That's a name. It'll pop up. I think that there's a little more context and everything, but it's more just texture to Midworld and the world that moved on and everything. I'll say that much. Yeah, that and Lemerck Industries, which is one of the reasons why. I like we talked a lot about Mike Flanagan before. Check out our Obsessive Viewer episode that you were on for Midnight Mass. But the like in Dr. Sleep, like he has a little sign in the place where the Bat Boy is murdered, or the baseball boy, and like there's a sign that just says Lamerck Industries, and I'm like, yeah,
holy fudge, really?
Yep.
Oh my god.
And then the
Dude.
bus, the bus that drops Dan off in whatever the place is that he goes to.
It's like New Hampshire. It's New Hampshire. I just don't remember the town.
Yeah, but the bus is Tet Transportation. It's a delight.
Oh my god, it is everywhere. It is everywhere, Matt.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So my dream is that Mike Flanagan gets to adapt it. That would be just amazing. Yeah.
That's the only way it's ever going to work.
I
think. Like, we're just going to have to force him.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, this was amazing. Thank you so much for having me on Tower Junkies. I love it here. I don't want to leave. I love it here.
Yeah, well, you are welcome anytime. And for the listeners, would you mind telling us where we can find you online, and if you have anything on the horizon for the year of underrated Stephen King, and when you plan on reading Wizard and Glass?
Right on. So we are the year of underrated Stephen King. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, all the podcast places you can find us. We have just kicked off the year. I'm going to go on holiday here and start my first King title of 2022. Haven't decided on what it's going to be yet. I think it's going to be Skeleton Crew, but it might be from a Buick 8. Unsure. So haven't decided, still mulling that around. But this year, we're just going to continue, we're going to keep that Blaine monorail going at a leisurely pace. We're going to analyze more overlooked and underrated King works, and we are going to make some more friends, hopefully do some more constant reader interviews. I would love to interview Tiny if he's interested.
Yes.
I would love to chat with him.
Yes.
That would be amazing. He's a good egg. So I'd like to, I'll be emailing him a little bit later down the road.
Awesome.
So I love making some King friends. I feel like with the constant reader interviews, I'm like James Lipton inside the actor's studio. It's like how I feel. It's a wonderful feeling. That's why I love doing them. So
they're always fun to listen to.
So I'm so glad. Yeah, I enjoy them. So more King titles. We're going to probably do Wizard and Glass. I want to say, let's strive for spring, maybe March, maybe April. So we'll get ourselves warmed up. However, depends on like, if I get a dud in there and I need to get back to Roland stat, like ASAP, I might bump it up. It might be like sooner than that. So we'll see, but it might be spring. More short stories. Got to continue on the King journey. So we're just going to keep on keeping on. And I'm open to chatting more King television. I'm open to see what's out there. Some King TV. I don't know if there's any new miniseries or films coming out. I know that Obsessive Viewer might be able to tell me. So you'll have to let me know if there's something to watch. But other than that, we're going to keep on keeping on. So anybody out there can reach us on Twitter and on Instagram at underrated SK pod. Please say hi. But the fastest way to get my attention is underratedsk@gmail, the old fashioned way. Just send me an email and say hi. You can give book suggestions. And that's all I got. So I'm excited for 2022.
Awesome. Well, Happy New Year, and thank you so much for coming on. Yeah, and I can't wait to see what you do in 2022. And it's always a pleasure to have you on, and we'll definitely be having you on at other points throughout the year, I'm sure. So be prepared for me to
we
bug
gotta
you.
read Joyland.
Yes,
we're gonna do
Colorado
Joyland.
Kid.
We're gonna do. Yeah, I'm gonna bust down your door. That's how much I want to talk about those books with you.
I have not forgotten about
borderline
that.
harassment.
Yes,
it's gonna
that
be
is
harassment
100% on the docket.
Yay!
Yeah. Oh yeah. So yeah. All right.
I'm excited. And
Me too.
Thank you so very much for having me on. Likewise, it is so nice chatting with you, and I'm excited for everything you're going to do with short stories. Holy hell, that's going to be amazing.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I'm very excited for this year, and I'm very excited for the inevitable burnout that I'll feel in a few months, and then I have to work to reinvigorate myself.
It'll be a good burn.
No. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It'll be a good burn, for sure.
All right, well,
thank you, Matt.
Yes. You are very welcome, and thank you again. And that will do it for this episode of Tower Junkies. I think next time we're going to finish out, Tiny and I are going to finish out our different seasons series, so look forward to that.
Yeah, I can't wait for that.
Oh yeah. It was really funny, and this will be brief and then we'll go, but it was really funny because my friend Mike, who is one of like my other co-hosts on Obsessive Viewer that's on sabbatical, but anyway, he's been reading The Stand, and like he's a Stephen King fan, and although him reading The Stand doesn't have anything to do with this. But anyway, he texted me and he was like, just hypothetically, if I were to teach, because he's a teacher, sophomore English in high school, and
that martyr, bless him.
Yeah. And he was like, if I were to teach a story from different seasons, what would be the best one? And I was like, I'm just excited because he's texting me about Stephen King.
Got 2 choices. He's only got 2.
That's the thing. I was sitting there and I was like, well, okay, the breathing method wouldn't work.
No.
Apt pupil would not be good.
Never. In all caps. Never.
Unless it's the last story he wants to teach in his teaching career.
Unless you want to teach in prison. Yeah, that'll be a good one for your local inmates.
Yeah. And then I thought, well, if you want like good storytelling and everything, Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption. Then I was like, well, there's there's some prison rapey stuff in it and everything. Yeah. And then I was like, The Body would probably work best. Yeah. So
it will work best.
Yeah. So hopefully he does something like that, but hopefully he vets it first.
Totally. Yeah. He might need some permission slips.
Oh yeah.
Just a couple.
Yeah.
But
all right. Well,
yeah, let me know what goes down with that. I'm invested now.
Will do. All right. Well, that'll do it for this episode of Tower Junkies. Thank you guys so much for listening. And again, check out Patreon at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. Have a ton of stuff up there. January is all about Night Shift for the $2 Patreon levels, and then also Scream commentaries for the $5 levels, and a bunch of other just fun stuff there. So check that out, patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. And thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time. And long days and pleasant nights, and may you have twice the number. I always forget that. So, all right. And,
ditto.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah. And now, here's a short clip from our Patreon exclusive RSS feed. To hear the full clip and more exclusive Patreon content, go to patreon.com/obsessiveviewer and become a patron at the minimum rate of $1 per month. Thank you and enjoy. So, yes, and I stand by that wholeheartedly. I'm definitely going to be rewatching this before we record our year in review episode, specifically because it is a 5-star movie for me, and I want to kind of double check and make sure that that's the case. I need to rewatch this en masse because then I have a bunch of other movies I want to rewatch to kind of really figure out exactly where they're going to land on my top 10 list. But Come On was just stunning. It was a stunning movie. It is shot in black and white, which is kind of trendy these days, I guess. This is not the only black and white movie I'm going to be.
This podcast was edited and produced by Matt Hurt and presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. You can find links to all of our shows at ObsessiveViewer.com/podcasts. For exclusive bonus content, including reviews, commentaries, and B-roll episodes, you can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/ObsessiveViewer. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.